Okay, guys, I hope everyone is okay. And I have a little bit of time to work today. And obviously, there's a bajillion things that I could be doing. But I thought the most helpful thing that I could do for you guys on the program right now is a video on how to cope, on strategies for coping during this time. And I'm going to provide a little bit of a warning beforehand. This is going to be my usual sort of no bullshit approach. And it's going to be probably very unpolished because I just need to get it done because I've got a lot to do and not that much time. But it's going to be a very no bullshit approach, and it's going to be a little bit of tough love probably as well. And I also want to say I'm probably going to step quite a bit out of my lane of just nutrition and training strategies to talk for more widely about stress management techniques, and lifestyle stuff that I have no business commenting on, but there's no way around it, right? Like it's a huge part of why people stressy and go completely berserk and just kind of lose their minds during times like this. The reason why I want to make this video is because what I see around me in my personal life is people are descending into depression. I know, look, it's been a fucking long couple of years since October 7th. Don't get me wrong, I am fucking feeling it as well. It's been so hard. And what I'm noticing that's different about this time is that even people who have been strong in the past are kind of falling apart around the edges, and you're seeing people falling apart at the seams a little bit. A lot of people kind of just falling into depression, falling into lots of anxiety, and falling into patterns of ruminating and just sitting around feeling sorry for themselves, not doing anything. And some people are giving up hope. And what I think is like really crazy, and what I see around me in my personal life, and I'm sure it's happening for some of you as well, is that people just do not have any strategies for actively managing this stuff, right? We live in the modern world. We have become very, very, very weak, and we're not used to shit happening. And a lot of us, if I'm talking to you, you're probably from an Anglo country, you probably moved to Israel. So, you're even less used to this than Israelis are, although you're probably Jewish. So you've probably been through a lot of shit and can deal with a lot of stuff, like more so than other people in the West. But our Western culture, couple of generations of like relative peace, it has made us very, very soft, and we don't know how to deal with a lot of this kind of stuff. But you have to actually actively manage your thoughts, your mood, your habits, your behaviors. What I'm finding so strange and so kind of like that's really sticking out at me is that people are just expecting it to be okay, or just expecting it to get better, or just expecting, or just giving in to like a feeling of like giving up, rather than and just kind of thinking, I don't know, I was talking with a friend last night, and she's not sleeping and she's feeling really depressed, and I'm like, okay, what are you doing about it to make things better? And she's like, nothing, right? Like she's just sitting around hoping she's going to magically feel better. All of a sudden the depression is going to just lift. It's not going to, like, this magic fairy isn't going to come along and take our problems away. A big part of what we've been trained to think in the West is that we've been trained to sort of like ruminate and worry about our problems, and we've not been given strategies to actually get off our bums and make things better for ourselves. And we've certainly not been given strategies to actually deal with mood and things like that. We talk so much about mental health, but really all we end up doing is just talking about our feelings all the time and ruminating, rather than actually like doing stuff. So I think also a lot of my advice in this presentation, lecture, whatever you want to call it, is probably going to be very, very counter-cultural, because I honestly think that our current therapy culture teaches us all the wrong stuff. I said, most people just have absolutely no strategies for dealing with this stuff, for dealing with stress. And so I want to talk about like specific things that you can do and be proactive about to make your mood, to make the contents of your mind better. And at the end of the day, it comes down to controlling the controllables and letting everything else go. You cannot control what the Israeli government does. You cannot control what the Iranian government does. You cannot control whether we descend into World War III or whether your house gets blown up or whatever, right? But you can control the certain things about the contents of your mind, your environment, your interactions with other people, your speech, your thoughts, those sorts of things. So that's all we can do. I want to also say a couple of caveats. I do appreciate that I do have support around me, right? My mother-in-law is looking after my kids right now. I realize that not everyone has that. And without these things, I do have a community around me. I do live in a rural area, in a moshav. I'm not in an urban area. I've got a lot of things going for me, and I appreciate that. I've got a lot of family in law around me. But this is one of my points in this whole thing is going to be that people only know how to compare up. They don't know how to compare down. I also don't have any family in Israel. I have, my sister-in-law, she disappears to her mum's house every so often. She has 2 sets of grandparents who can help out. I don't. My husband has been gone since first thing Friday morning. I'm at home alone with 3 kids most of the time. And a lot of people around me are not currently functioning, and you may notice I'm a little bit stressed as well. So it's just sometimes I think people fall into a trap of going, oh, well, it's okay for her because she's got this and she's got that. But they don't see the things that they have that I don't have. And so, we all have shit to deal with, and we all have shitty circumstances that are not ideal, but we have to work with what we've got. Some people have worse circumstances than me, and some of the things that I'm saying may not be possible, but you've got to work with what you've got. I'm going to talk about a lot of strategies in this presentation. So use what you can, and what doesn't apply to you, leave. The most obvious thing to address, first of all, is emotional eating. Okay, if you are falling into emotional eating right now, sitting around in the evening, eating junk, snacking on crap all day, you've got 3 options, right? Either you can just feel stressed and all these feelings and feel shit and feel crap and just try to resist the urge. That's what most people do. They just try to stop emotional eating. And that doesn't work very well. Option number 2 is to solve your problems, right? Now, there's a lot of problems that we have right now that we can't solve. Like, we can't stop there being a war with Iran. We can't, stop the sirens going off in the night. There's a lot of stuff that we can't solve. But if one of the problems, there are probably many things in your environment and in your mind that you can solve, right? If your house is a fucking mess, clean it, right? Then you will have one less problem to deal with. If you haven't had a shower for 3 days, have a fucking shower, even if it's with your kids, right? If you haven't moved off the couch for a few days, or if you haven't eaten anything but crap, eat a vegetable, right? There are certain problems that you can control and that you can solve. So focus on the things that you can control. One of my favorite expressions, control the controllables, let everything else go. And the third thing that you can do is reduce overall stress, okay? So if stress is like the overall stress that we're all experiencing right now is very, very, very overwhelming. There's a lot of reasons to be stressed, but none of us, or most people that I know, are not doing things to actively reduce stress. We all have lots of things that are aggravating stress, but very few people are actually doing things to reduce stress. And you might think it's futile. You might think it's like, I don't know, pissing on a house on fire right now. And it might feel like that, but you've got all these things making you stressed. There are certain things you can do to reduce stress, even if it seems silly and futile and minor. It's a fuck of a lot better than not doing those things. Okay. So one of the big message that I often get across, I try to get across in our program, in my coaching, is that emotional eating is not the problem. It's the symptom. Okay. And the big problem with emotional eating is that it doesn't actually help, because it gives you 2 problems instead of 1. And there are a lot of negative consequences downstream. So even though it feels very good in the moment, later on, it feels very, very shit. Like in the medium term, it upsets your stomach. You'll wake up feeling crap in the morning. You'll feel rubbish the next day. And longer term, it makes you fat. So, it sometimes reduces stress in the moment, but then it gives you all these other reasons to be to be stressed later on. It gives you all these other problems later on. I realize it's not easy to just stop emotional eating, But what you need to do is realize that it's not just, the emotional eating is the problem. There's a whole chain of events that lead to your emotional eating. It normally happens at very reliable times in the day, and like, in the same sorts of places, like on our couch in front of the TV in the middle of the night or late in the evening. But we can't zoom in too much on, just that, trying to stop that. We've got to look at what we can do outside of emotional eating to stop us from getting to that breaking point. At the end of the day, all emotional eating is when you feel shit, right? When you feel shit physically and mentally. Emotional eating, it just offers a release. It offers just a pleasant physical sensation. That's all it is. And that is just a distraction from us feeling shit, right? Mentally and physically. So the solution is to do other things that make you feel good mentally and physically. So that's what I'm going to focus on for the rest of this, thing, because that's really how we can control emotional eating. First of all, we're going to talk about the specific things like to do with diet and exercise that you can do at this time. So there are 10 things I'm going to talk about. The first ones are diet and exercise that are specific to what we do on this program. But then all the other stuff is kind of like to do with stress reduction, lifestyle, things that are, above my pay grade. First of all, diet. Most people, when they're in a state of stress, actually lose their appetite. And a lot of people sort of often say on the program, say to me, I'm really stressed and I actually lose my appetite when I'm stressed, as though that's like some, unique thing to them. This is a normal thing, right? When people get stressed, they tend to lose their appetite. They don't actually tend to get hungrier. But what tends to happen in the modern food environment is then what happens is we don't feel like eating the healthy stuff, right? It just doesn't appeal to us. So then what we do is we eat hyper palatable foods because they taste good and they give us a good physical sensation in the moment. And those things also happen to be very calorie dense. So then what ends up happening is we end up we feel like we're not eating very much. I'm just having a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of chocolate and a bit of ice cream and a bit of cake and a bit of blah, 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 crisps, whatever. And then we end up overeating, okay? And remember the concepts of volume, right? Your body can't register calories eaten. But it only registers weight and volume of foods instead. So you feel like you haven't eaten much because you've eaten very small amounts of food, but in fact, you've put a large number of calories into your body. And then people end up putting on weight and they end up in a cycle of then craving these foods, because remember, cravings most people think we eat what we crave, but we don't. We crave what we eat. So when you get used to eating this stuff, you then crave it more. And then we end up in a cycle, and then because you're constantly eating hyperpalatable, calorie-dense stuff, you never actually get hungry, plus the anxiety that reduces hunger. So you never actually end up feeling like eating healthy stuff. And so you end up in this cycle of just eating loads and loads of crap and putting on weight. Tracking. Should you track? Now, like I am, you know me by now to know that I'm not going to say to you, just track, just fucking do the things. I know I have not had time to track. Like I don't have that spare time in my day. You don't need to necessarily track, right? But what you do still need to do is stick to the other habits that we've been trying to establish on the program so far. So stick to regular meal times, right? Breakfast, lunch, afternoon snack and dinner, 8 a.m., 12, 4 p.m., 8 p.m., right? Whatever your anchor points are, if you just eat at those times and don't snack in between, aim to eat nutritious foods, balanced meals. Keep it simple as well, right? 3 scrambled eggs and a slice of white bread with butter on it, right? It doesn't need to be even like, super duper healthy stuff. It doesn't need to be a big salad. It doesn't need to be, fancy. Keep it plain if you don't have appetite. But just by having sensible sized meals and having meals instead of snacking, you're going to massively reduce what you're eating overall, because at the end of the day, you might say, oh, fuck it, nothing matters, right? This is a problem. When stuff like this is going on, people just fall into nihilism. Nothing matters. So what's the point of, eating the right things? What's the point of watching what I eat, right? I'll just eat whatever I want. And then you end up, in 2 weeks' time, when all of this does settle down, you've gained 5 kilos and now you're feeling even worse and you've got another problem to solve. You have to not fall into nihilism that it doesn't matter. The only things we can control right now are the very small things about, the contents of our mind, our day-to-day lives, our environment, and the things that we put in and out of our body. It all matters. Don't fall into the thinking process of like, oh, it just doesn't matter. I'll just do whatever I want. Also eat filling foods, right? Like, don't worry about like keeping it as filling and perfect as we normally try to do it, but try to aim for filling foods rather than calorie dense stuff. Don't forget fruit and veg, right? I get it. I'm not in the mood for vegetables right now, but fruit, adding some fruit to each of my meal, at least I'm making sure I'm getting vitamins, minerals, and like plenty of fiber. If you just stick to meal times, you'll make your life so much easier. Also, don't give yourself excuses. Oh, it's okay because the world's going to end. Oh, it's okay because, like whatever, we're at war, blah, 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 blah. This isn't a moral stance. I'm not saying, you're good for having discipline and you're bad for giving, like for just, not having discipline or whatever. It's because this is like shitting in your own garden, right? You are going to have to clean up the mess. Nobody else is going to suffer from these choices. It's going to make your life worse downstream of those actions. And as I always say, you're going to end up with 2 problems instead of 1. We're still going to be at war, but you're going to feel shitter and you're going to put on weight. So like, control the controllables and let everything else go. When it comes to exercise, please, for the love of God, do not worry about getting your normal workouts. If I often get messages during these times going, Jen, I didn't get a chance to work out, like sort of almost apologetic. Of course you didn't. The fucking gyms are closed. Like, you got loads of kids running around. Like, I don't expect you to do normal workouts. If you can go for a quick run, like even 10 minutes, I don't know, just running up and down your road while someone watches the kids, while your husband's with the kids, whatever, go for a short walk. Just getting movement, and body weight. Don't forget the power of body weight and mobility stuff, right? Just while the kids are around, and I don't do this enough, I need to do this when the kids are around as well. It's just doing some mobility stuff, doing a mobility warm up, the deep squats, the stretches, the upward dog, the downward dog, and doing body weight movements like squats, lunges, push-ups, incline push-ups. If you have a dumbbell, great. Don't worry about doing the heavy stuff, but like, just do something that feels really easy and go like this, right? Just move your body, just get the blood pumping. Put on a YouTube video if that's something that you like to do. I don't like to. I just prefer to do like strength exercises with really, really light weights. Just get movement. Just do something rather than nothing, because it will make you feel better. And don't feel like I have to do an hour workout or a half-hour workout. Do a 10-minute workout. Do a 5-minute workout. Do it with loads of breaks in between and loads of interruptions. It doesn't matter, but it's going to make you feel better to get your body moving, get your blood pumping, get your body temperature up, blah, blah, blah. Style stuff. Now we're going to move on to the other stuff that's not directly exercise and training, okay? We've got to look at the bigger picture, because obviously it's not just about that stuff. It's about so many other things that we can do to protect our mental health during this time. First of all, lifestyle, okay? Get some morning light, right? Go and drink your coffee on the balcony or outside, right? Go out for a short walk with the kids, something to get outside, getting morning light, spending 10, 15 minutes outside, getting light into our eyes. It's really, really healthy for us. Don't just stay indoors. It helps regulate our circadian rhythm. It will improve sleep later on. Get, like I said before, get as much movement as you can, right? Cleaning your house is movement, like running around with your kids is movement, but don't just sit down and, put the TV on for the kids and just sit down on your phone, like just, rotting on the sofa. That's not going to help. Get good sleep, right? And I'm going to talk about sleep separately, but you have to protect your sleep. You have to get we're getting interrupted several times a night by rockets and by missiles and sirens. You have to sleep as much as you possibly can. Exercise, as I mentioned before, and nutritious foods. Okay, these are the sort of big lifestyle things that we can sort of control and deal with. Let's move on to some of the juicy stuff. Stress reduction and emotional regulation. Okay. One of the big things I say to a lot of you on the program over and over again is mood first, right? Don't try to do the diet and do your training from a place of feeling depressed, feeling anxious, not having slept, right? If you take care of those things first, if you make sure you get enough sleep and that you're in a good mood and that you are, mentally stable, everything else will flow from that. You'll be able to do the diet. You'll be able to look after yourself. You'll be able to look after others. You have to address mood first. The problem is that our culture has such shitty advice for taking care of your mood, because it involves talking about and thinking about your feelings all the fucking time. And that's pretty much the only thing that it teaches us to do. And that is the worst thing we can do. That causes us to ruminate, and it causes us to catastrophize and make things worse. Also, as I said in the introduction, most people just expect this to take care of itself. They just expect to feel good. I can't explain how many people I've talked to over the past few days who I'm like, okay, you're in a bad mood, you're depressed, you're anxious, you're not sleeping well. What are you doing to improve those things? Oh, nothing. Like, what the fuck, guys? Like, if that describes you, you need to be proactive about it. You can't just sit around being anxious, depressed, ruminating thoughts and just expect it to, I don't know if people actually expect it to get better, but they don't do anything to actively make it better. And you actually do have to climb your way out of this hole. Nobody is coming to save you, and you're not just going to fly out of it, or the hole's not just going to disappear. You are going to have to climb yourself out of it. And it's hard. I know, I've been there and I'm struggling myself, but you have to take steps to make things better. And they feed on each other, just like the vicious cycle. It creates a virtuous cycle to help you get out of this sort of mindset. Most people also do stupid fucking things that a 4-year-old knows is bad for them. They are on their phone 24/7 consuming the news. They eat shit, they mope around, they ruminate, they go to bed late, right? After the kids have gone to bed, they know they're going to be woken up 3 times a night by fucking sirens, and they still go to bed at midnight. Like, guys, that people give up, people make absolutely no effort. It creates a downward spiral. Okay, again, if this is you, you've got to change certain things. You've got to stop doing these things, and you've got to do different things. You otherwise won't feel better, right? It's not going to just happen by itself. It's not going to happen by magic. We need strategies for reducing stress, and you also need self-awareness. You need to know what your signs are that you're cracking, what your signs are that you're in a downward spiral, what your signs are that you're feeling bad. You need to be proactive. You need to put things in place preemptively. Okay, so one of the things I did at the beginning of the week is I asked my mother-in-law to be with the kids for half an hour Sunday night so that I could go for a half-hour run and just get my heart rate up and come back home. Today, some time to work out. Last night, I went and sat in a jacuzzi with a friend for like half an hour and then came back home while my mother-in-law was like, with the kids watching TV, right? I know not everyone has this stuff, right? I know not everyone has a friend with a jacuzzi, like just down the road. I get it, right? But whatever it is that you think, be resourceful. Think about what you have in your immediate environment, what people can do around what you can use in your immediate environment. So do you have a bath? I don't have a fucking bath. If I had a fucking bath, I would be having a bath every night because it relaxes me. And so if you have that in your house or in your apartment, then do that. Self-awareness. You need to know what the signs that if you're like, for me, if I get overly stressed and go past a certain threshold, I don't sleep. I just don't sleep. I can't get to sleep at night. I have panic attacks in bed. So I have to keep my stress below a certain threshold. For you, it might be IBS, right? I have a bit of a dodgy tummy right now, and it's purely just stress related, right? For you, it might be migraines. It might be your skin breaking out. Whatever it is, the signs that show you that or you get sick all the time, right? Whatever the signs are that your body's showing you that you're not coping, right? You need to be aware of them, and you need to actually do something about it. You need to be proactive. The other thing I want to say is that you can access relaxation through the mind or through the body. The latter is often overlooked, but is far more effective. Okay, so people focus on talking therapies, going to a psychologist, talking about their problems, but this can be effective at times if it's done well, but normally it just leads to rumination. We talk to a friend, we talk to people about our problems, but again, it just leads to rumination. Often people think about things like doing meditation, but it's very hard to do that if your body is in a fight or flight mode. You have to try to do things to access the body, okay, that relax the body. The mind will follow. Here are some of my recommendations. CBT, right? I'm going to talk about that a bit more in a moment. But that is about getting control of the contents of your mind. Put your goddamn phone down, right? Like, I get it. We need to have access to our phones. We do need to keep updated with what's going on. We do need to read the news. I read the news, right? It's all, I post on social media, which is, obviously not a particularly easy thing to do. but you need to sometimes put your phone down. If the kids have gone to bed, put your phone down. Do not sit and doom scroll and spend 3 hours on social media with the news in the background when you should be going to sleep and you should be doing something to unwind. The number of people who tell me I don't have time to meditate, or I don't have time to have a hot bath, or whatever. Some people genuinely don't. I get it. You might have to work in the evening once the kids have gone to bed. I get that. But if you're just sitting there doom scrolling, you do have time to do some of these other things. Having a hot shower or a bath, like, seriously, just, it's such a simple thing, but it really helps relax the body. I know it might feel like pissing on a house on fire right now, but you've got to do these small things. A cold shower as well, or cold water. Some of us have like a pool outside, or paddling pool for our kids, or have a fucking hose. Go and get yourself in some cold water, like have a cold shower, then have a hot shower. Trust me, you will feel, count to 30 while you're under the cold water, and then have your hot shower. You will feel so good for it. There are breathing techniques you can do. There are so many things on the internet. There's so many things on YouTube. I can send you a couple of recommendations from the app that I use and the app that I like, called Waking Up. You can do a body scan. You could do a guided, like, progressive relaxation thing. One of my favorites is Wim Hof breathing. And let me know if you want to learn more about this. This is like, it's basically hyperventilation, right? But it's a really, really, really powerful breathing technique that really helps relax the body and mind. So what it is 30 really fast, quick, deep breaths while you're lying down with your eyes closed. And you can do this there's a guided meditation on YouTube. Then on the 30th breath, you breathe all the air out your lungs and you hold your breath for a minute. And then you do the 30 breaths. You do the 30 breaths again. You do that 3 times, right? And it's really, I know it sounds really kooky and crazy, but it really is almost like taking like psychedelic drugs, right? It does something to your mind. It does something to your body. It makes you all tingly. It makes you feel good. It makes you stop thinking for a moment. And these sorts of things, I know they can be kooky and like hippie-ish and whatever, but they're so powerful and they're so underestimated in like the modern world. It's free. We have access to it through our breath, and people don't use it. Actually, before bed, again, people are like, I don't have time to meditate. If you have time to be sitting on your phone in bed, scrolling, or in front of the TV, you have time to put your phone down and go and do a 5-minute meditation, a 10-minute meditation. There's lots of guided ones. Again, I can send you some meditations that I like from the Waking Up app, but it's really just about, creating. It might take you 10 minutes to create a little bit of stillness in your mind, but again, I think some of these mental techniques are a little bit less effective than some of the physical ones that relax your actual body, but they can be helpful too. Finally, stay busy, right? Don't sit around thinking about your problems. Don't sit around thinking about the world's problems. Do things. Don't sit and ruminate. Distract yourself and your mind from ruminating thoughts, which are like a virus, and they will make you feel worse and worse and worse. Okay, so let's talk for a moment about CBT. Many of you have done this with me on the program already, because we use it for all kinds of things around weight loss, like, oh my God, the weight was up this morning. Oh, it's the end of the world. I might as well just give up and eat a whole packet of biscuits. The CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is about understanding that we have a negativity bias. We think negative things more easily than positive things. And so we don't see things clearly. We overreact to what's going on. And I get how silly it sounds to be like, oh, you're overreacting to the current situation. But it stops us from being objective. And what we end up doing is we fall into all kinds of cognitive distortions, like catastrophizing, thinking, oh, it's the end of the world. Oh, we're all going to die. Oh, no. Yes, those things may happen. I'm not going to lie, but they probably won't. Humanity will probably carry on going. Things will we will probably be back in a normal routine in a week, a couple of weeks' time, in a month's time, whatever time frame it is, right? And we'll be looking back on this, right? Just like we all thought we were going to die during COVID, and we all thought we were going to die after October 7th. Like, it didn't happen. We're still here, and we're probably still going to be here. And if we're not, then there's no point worrying about it, because people spend so much time worrying about what may or may not happen in the future rather than what's right in front of them, okay? So catastrophizing is one of the ways that one of the cognitive distortions, fortune telling, trying to predict the future of what's going to happen. Comparison is another one, because people only compare up, they don't compare down. And yes, this is a fucking shit situation. I get it. It's probably the worst situation that I've ever been in my life. But there are people starving in the world. There are people, actually, just being slaughtered in even Syria, right? There are women living under Islamic Republic in Iran, right? There are women, there were little girls being married off in Iraq and having their clitoris cut off in Africa. There are 30 million people in the world in modern day slavery, right? There are a lot of shit things happening in the world, and I know that doesn't exactly make us, there's a lot of good things happening in the world as well. But what we will tend to do is always compare ourselves to people living in comfort and in prosperity in Western countries, rather than comparing ourselves down. There are political prisoners in China, in concentration camps, right? People being experimented on in China. There are such shitty things happening in the world. You need to also keep perspective. If you do have a job, you do have a nice home, you do have, many of us do, you do have kids around you, you do have family, you do live in a good neighborhood, there are still things that are, that are still going for you. And you can't just compare up, that the grass is always greener on the other side. Of course, all or nothing thinking. Well, if there's a war and if there's no point me showering, there's no point me looking after myself, there's no point if I'm going to eat one biscuit, I might as well eat the whole packet. That kind of all or nothing thinking is also going to get us in trouble. So CBT is about recognizing our overly negative thoughts, and then recognizing that it's a cognitive distortion and correcting them with more objective, calm, rational thoughts. And I know a lot of what I've put out there doesn't exactly sound calm and rational, but we have to keep perspective of and not overly catastrophize things, not make things worse. I've also been in a few situations with friends who have just gone completely hysterical when we have when we have the warnings come up on our phones. And I'm like, how are you coping like this, that every day you go into a panic attack 4 times a day? You have to stay calm, you have to deal with the situation in front of you. And they sort of get into this place of maybe the house is going to be hit, maybe this is going to happen, you have to not think that way and fall into those ruminating thoughts, because that is going to make everything worse. Okay, next piece of advice is stay busy. This piece of advice might sound a little bit Victorian, but again, it might be very countercultural, but I think that the advice that we're given today is so bad. You do actually need to distract your body and mind with other things, with other projects. Make a plan for the week. I've written out on a piece of paper every single day and try to put things in on different days, like plans with friends, plans with family, things that I'm going to do. And when there aren't any plans with people, other stuff that I can do, like working, that's going to keep my mind a little bit busy. 2, meet with friends, try to meet with people, try to reach out to people, because so many people aren't reaching out. And I've even found it with a few friends where I've convinced them to come and hang out with us for a bit, and then they've gone, I feel so much better now. But they needed convincing, and they never would have reached out to anyone themselves because they're in such a bad place. Reach out, try to build connections with people, try to use the connections that you have. Be with other people, play dates, have other children for your children to play with so that they stay sane, but also so you don't have to fucking play with them, because playing with your children is a form of torture. It's one of the most boring things that an adult can do. You have other shit to do, like cleaning, like working, taking care of your mental health, cooking, wiping people's bums. You don't need to also play with your children. So try to make these play dates happen. You can also try to, make some arrangements with other parents. Maybe I could take your kid for a couple of hours and tomorrow you can take mine for a couple of hours. Put it out there, ask people. People can say no. People might not want to do it, but some people, especially closer friends, they might be up for it as well. Ask for help, right? Ask the people around you for help. We're going to talk more about that later. And also don't expect people to read your mind. Make healthy food, right? Put some energy into that. I've done a lot of cooking over the past few days, and it's probably a bit too much food, and some of it's going in the freezer. But at least, there's food for us to eat rather than everyone just eating shit. Bake a nice cake, right? I'm planning later on this week to make a carrot cake just for my whole family, and just so there's something nice to enjoy. Because why not? I mean, I'm going to need to find time with it. It's going to be an activity to do with my kids, but like whatever, it's just something that might help lift my spirits and other people's spirits a little bit as well. Don't just stay in your own little world. Everyone has shit going on and everyone needs help, and nobody's asking for help because we live in this crazy individualistic culture. It's a bit less so in Israel, but we're still, most of us are from Anglo countries. Like, reach out, help someone. You're not the only one with problems. Like, it's so easy for us to get dragged into our own, little world of problems, but other people have shit going on too. Routine, do the basic things every day. Get up, tidy your house, clean, wear makeup, put some fucking makeup on. Like, just, I'm not right now, but I have done most mornings, just put makeup on just because it makes me feel better while my kids are running around screaming, whatever. Get dressed. Don't just sit around in your pajamas all day. Shower. The kids, brush your teeth, right? The kids' routines too. Get them to brush their teeth. Get them to have baths. Get them to, eat proper food. It's all going to help. Again, it just helps everyone stay sane. It doesn't. I am the worst person at like routines. I'm not good at like, my kids eating at regular meal times and things like that. But I do try to keep like our normal bedtime routine. I do try to, get them dressed in the morning as much as they want to just run around in their pants, get the laundry done, stay on top of things like that. Because again, if I have a messy, disorganized house, I'm just going to have another problem to deal with. So, and again, I know these things seem silly and futile and what's the point? But again, we can fall into nihilism, and these are the only things that we can really control in our day-to-day environment, and they really help. I've had days where I've done this and I just feel so much more positive, and days when I don't do this, I know it's only been like 4 days so far, but days I know from previous, like, conflicts in the past couple of years, the days that I don't do this stuff, I kind of just feel myself slipping and descending into a negative mindset throughout the course of the day. Number 8, this one's really, really important. Communication with the people around us. Most people have really poor communication skills. And one of the main things is this one, that we tend to fall into patterns of either silence or violence. So we either keep our mouth shut, don't say anything, like, like, I can't think, like, sweep it under the rug and like, bottle it up. That's how we say it in English, like bottle it up. Or we like have little outbursts at people. We tend to resort to either silence or violence. And there's very little sensible, direct, calm communication in between. So what ends up happening is people say things like, you did this or you didn't do that, and we fall into patterns of sort of blaming and shaming people, of like, you didn't help me, you didn't do this, why don't you do this? Or saying things like, you never helped me. So that's very all or nothing, like, you never help me, like when people probably do. Like, for example, I don't know, with husbands, like, you never help me in the house, right? This is very unspecific, and it doesn't give anyone any direction and help them, help them actually know what to do. And we also assume that people are reading our minds, that people know that we need help, that people know that we want something or don't want something, or like something or don't like something. But often people have no fucking clue. And sometimes we end up attacking the other person who's on the receiving end. Good communication is about doing the opposite of all of those things. So take a deep breath and stay calm with your emotions, and then state your needs and make a request. Okay. So state your needs. So instead of saying like, you didn't help me, you haven't been helping me enough, things like that, which are unspecific and aren't a request, you say very clearly to people, I need more help. Can you please take the kids for a couple of hours tomorrow? It's very specific. It's very direct. So it's really important to be very specific. Like, a silly example that comes up over and over again is like, again, saying to like our husbands, you never help me around the house. Again, all or nothing, very unspecific. Right? Instead, turning it into a request and stating your needs. Can you take the bin out every day? Can you do the dishes? Right? Like, specific requests. People don't like doing this. Women don't like doing this because they think he should just know that it needs to be done. That's expecting mind reading, right? And we do this with so many people, like with our in-laws, with our parents, with our friends. So another important point is to not fall into, don't complain, don't explain. So don't go, the other day you did this and I felt like da 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 da, or like you don't help me enough, or blah blah blah, or I really need help because I'm really struggling and da 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 da. Don't explain, don't complain. Just say what you need, make a direct request. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to get it. People can say no. People might say, I can't help right now, I can't do that, I can't whatever. That's fair enough. You're not always going to get what you want. But I feel like our culture of how to communicate, especially the way women are taught to communicate, is so kind of like autistic and awkward. Like, I feel like, or when you said this, it made me feel whatever. Okay, sometimes there's a place for that, right? But in these situations, there isn't, right? It's just about getting your needs met, talking directly to other people, communicating directly with other people, and just being fair to them and being fair to like the fact that they can't read your mind. They don't know what's going on and they've probably got their own shit going on. About sleep, put your goddamn phone down, right? The number of people who scroll after their kids go to bed, have a little bit of self-discipline, right? You don't let your child just watch. We talk about how addictive screens are for kids, and you can't put your fucking phone down. Put your phone down and go to bed, right? Good sleep hygiene is really important, especially during times like this. Kids go to bed, you need to start a wind down routine. If you don't have one, you need one. You need to turn the lights down in the house. You need to have a shower, have a bath, wash your face, take your makeup off, get into some pajamas, like have the lights down low, light a candle, lavender, whatever, lie down in bed. At the very least, read a book, right? Read a fucking book, right? Not a thing off a screen, right? Read a book. Put your phone in another room, or, at the very least on the other side of your room. Do not look at it in bed. Do not touch it. You need to have some pre-bed relaxation. At the very least, read a book. But better than that is do a meditation, right? Do one of these guided relaxation techniques. Do a breathing, like the Wim Hof breathing thing, something, right? And again, so many people say, oh, I don't have time for this. Well, if you have time to spend 3 hours doom scrolling, you have time to do this instead, right? Dedicate time to actually winding down and getting a good night's sleep. If you're really wired and anxious, get some movement, even if it's just walking around your house for 10 minutes or, whatever, right? You've got to do something. You've got to get the energy flowing and get the energy out. And you also need to know if you need, this is something I should have mentioned earlier with the stress reduction stuff. You need to know if you need an upper or a downer. If you are depressed, you need an upper. You need movement. You need to get out in sunlight, direct sunlight. You need to get into cold water or have a cold shower, right? You need something that's going to inject some energy into you. If you are anxious and whatever, apart from like something like movement or exercise, it's going to get the energy out. You need a downer. You need relaxation techniques. You need like breathing techniques. You need meditation. You need something or you need a hot bath, something that's going to help your body and your mind unwind and relax. Hygiene starts first thing in the morning. Get up. Try not to, I know it's hard and we sometimes need to catch up on sleep in the morning if we can, but get up, get outside, drink your coffee in outside, get morning light, get outside if you can, and also try to limit caffeine throughout the day. Don't just smash 6 or 7 coffees, right? Otherwise you're not going to sleep. And if you're anxious, if you have anxiety and you're drinking, just going fuck it with the caffeine and drinking, maybe you don't actually have anxiety, right? Maybe you just need to cut the caffeine down. So yeah, like caffeine is going to make anxiety worse. It's going to make sleeping problems worse. So again, you need to have self-awareness and know what your problems are. When I start to get overly stressed, I don't sleep. And I get anxiety. I have to like make sure that I'm not overdoing it with things like caffeine. I need to make sure that I'm not overdoing it with stimulation, especially late at night. Depression and feels very lethargic. You need to know what's going to inject some energy into you. Finally, medication. Okay, if you can't do these things, I recommend doing all of these things. I recommend being proactive. I recommend doing many things all the time to be improving your mental health, to making you feel better. And the problem with our modern lives is we just expect everything to be easy. We expect everything to be good. We expect to just feel good all the time. Whereas actually, we need to work at it, right? Entropy is a thing. Things fall apart. If like you build a house and then like just leave it, it's going to get dusty, it's going to get dirty, it's going to start falling down. To keep things like in place, to keep things going, to keep systems going. It needs human energy all the time into the system, and to keep your spirits up, to keep your mood up, to be positive, you have to be working at it all the time. If you can't do these things, if you can't get yourself out of a hole, if you can't sort your sleep out, if you can't get your anxiety under control, if you can't get yourself out of a depressive state, take medication, right? I definitely recommend doing all these things first, right? Being proactive about it. Again, like, so many people just expect it to get better, or I don't know what they expect. They don't even seem to think it's going to get better, but they don't do anything about it. Do something about it, be proactive. But if you really can't, if you're really deep in a really bad hole, don't be a hero. Nobody gives a fuck, right? Because another really important just truth that's a bit harsh is that if you can't cope, you become a burden on everyone else. And again, this is like not a modern concept. It's all about me, 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 me. We live in a very individualistic world where it's like, you know, it's all about my problems and my mental health and my universe and whatever. But we are the adults now. We are in our 30s and 40s. We are the mothers. We have children. We are the adults in the room. So stop expecting someone else to come and save you. Stop expecting someone else to make things better. Stop expecting someone else to do all these things and create, you know, so many of us just expect other people. We're still children. We're still maidens. We're expecting other people to come along, other grown-ups to come along and fix our problems, to make everything better for us. We are the grown-ups now, right? We are the grown-ups now, and we have to do this. We have to do this for ourselves, and we have to do it for our children, and we have to do it for the other people around us. So we're not used to thinking about not wanting to be a burden on other people. And it's I know it sounds like a very Victorian way of thinking, and we don't say this in the modern world. We say, like, you shouldn't think like that. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel shame. But actually, no, like, it's more than just about you. It's more than just about me. We've got to all keep each other up, like, keep our spirits up. And we've all got to help. We've all got to help each other. And if people start sinking into like despair, it brings everyone else down. I've been there through, you know, after October 7th in my community, everyone's spirits were really high and everyone really worked hard to keep everyone's spirits high. And it really makes a big difference. One of the things that my husband says to me, because he's been doing a lot of miluim, a lot of reserve duty over the past couple of years, is that the men that, because it's all men that are doing reserve, almost all men are doing reserve duty. He says the ones that break, the ones that crack, the ones that have to go home, it's because their wives are not coping at home and they fall apart. Whereas if they have, and my husband has said that to me as well, that for him, the hardest thing is when I'm not coping at home. And like, you know, I was pregnant with my third child after October 7th. It was a really hard time. And for him, those times when I've not been coping, that makes him not be able to cope in miluim, in the reserve duty, not be able to do his job. And it's really affected me, this idea of, you know, holding up the fort. And after October 7th, there was a lot of talk of the chazit and the oref, right? The kind of the chest, the front lines, right? The fighters, the emergency services, them doing their job. But in Israel, we talk a lot about the oref as well, which is the back of the neck, which is like the women at the back of, in the background, the women at home with the kids, the grandparents, the community back at home, keeping everything going, keeping the kids alive, fed, well, keeping things moving, holding up the fort at home in order to support the front lines and what's going on, you know, out there. Brave soldiers and people in the emergency services, what they are doing to protect us, to keep us all safe. We all are part of this, and we all have to play our part. And I know what it feels like to be a mum at home with little kids. You feel so helpless. You feel like you can't really do anything. But this is our job. This is what we're there to do. This is the thing that we can do to keep everything else going. And I know how, you know, that's just an example of how I know that, like, the men that I know that are in reserve duty, when in the reserves, they can't cope when we can't cope. And it's just an example of how we affect everyone else. And and I see the people around me that are cracking a bit, and kind of they are really negative and they really bring me down, and I'm finding it hard to keep the other people around me going. And I keep coming back to this, that like, okay, I need to sort myself out. I need to sort out my mind. When I get too stressed, I need to get myself back to a place where I feel good, so that not just so that I can feel good, but so that I can, be good for my kids, so that my kids can have some stability right now, but also so that I can help the people around me to stay positive, to keep motivated, to keep going and to get through this. That was the final point that I wanted to make. I went off on a bit of a khafira, a bit of a rant there, but think of other people, right? We're trained in our individualistic society to think about ourselves, to think about our problems. And we're trained to ruminate, and that makes things worse. If you focus on the things that you can control in your environment, in your mind, but also the ways that you can help others, right? You can influence things around you, right? It may not feel big and it might feel futile, but those are the things that we can control. And thinking about others, trying to help others, even in very small ways, of just being considerate, of just being nice, of just kind of doing something small for them, doing people favors, like trying to preempt if someone needs something. It makes us feel good as well, but it lifts other people's spirits because they feel like people care about them as well. But it also distracts your mind from ruminating thoughts. I feel like religious people are very, very good at this. And I'm kind of on the tefer between like chilonim and like the kind of secular world and the religious world. And I feel like religious people are so much better at this. And in our secular society, we lose sight of this stuff and we get really crap at doing this. We just sink into our own little worlds and don't think about other people. And then it just makes everything worse. Okay, so a summary: control the controllables. All you can really control during this time is your mood, your thoughts, your behaviors, your speech, your habits, your environment, and your mind. That's what you can control. You can't control other people's thoughts or moods or behaviors. You can't control what's going on, whether we're going to descend into World War III, whatever. We can't control those things. You can also control what goes in and out of your mouth. And that means what food you put in your mouth, right? And it also means what words come out of your mouth. What are you being kind to others? Are you saying positive things, or are you bringing others down? And are you bringing yourself down with ruminating and catastrophizing speech? Focus on the small things. Another thing about our modern Western culture is that we have an activist culture. You can change the world, the Greta Thunbergs. You can fix the climate. You can, I don't know, you can save Gaza. You can do this, you can do that. The reality is that most of us are not going to change the world. We're not going to do those big things. All we're going to do is impact the people around us. And that's all we can control. And people get into this all or nothing thinking, oh, well, if I can't stop the war, then there's no point doing anything. It's like, well, how about you just control the things that are in your immediate environment? Most people don't even know how to make their own fucking bed in the morning, and yet they still think that they can fix, I don't know, the Israeli government or geopolitical things that are going on. You can't even keep your own house clean and organized. How the fuck do you think you have the solutions to all of this stuff? You can't even have a shower and put some makeup on. Guys, let's focus on, we do need to focus on the small things that we can do and the small things that we can control and the small things that we can influence, rather than, thinking that we could change the world. If I was the president, I would do blah, 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 blah. Mood first. I say this constantly on the program. Don't try to just operate and, do the diet and do the training and blah, 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 blah from a place of depression and anxiety and blah, blah, blah. Control your mood and you'll be able to control so many more things around you. Don't ruminate. Rumination is one of the worst things that you can do. And I know that's kind of like telling somebody, don't be depressed, right? It's very hard to just stop ruminating. When you catch yourself doing it, distract yourself, do something relaxing, do something to get the energy moving, do something like bake a cake, whatever, distract yourself, do other things, because the rumination just doesn't help. Feelings, because they often are out of proportion. They often aren't very objective. And even if they are justified, which in this case, many times they are, it doesn't help to just focus in on your feelings, right? Focus on your actions, focus on your behaviors, focus on your habits, focus on the things that you can control. Okay, I think that's everything. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know, talk to me. Let me know if you need help. Let me know if you want to talk about any of these things, if you found this helpful, if you found it unhelpful. Let me know if you need help. Let me know whatever. My WhatsApp is open. I will answer when I can and when I have time. And yeah, just like be strong, and we're all in this together, and don't give up. Don't give up hope, and do the things that you can to control your immediate environment, thoughts, mood, and all of that.